Hey everybody, it's September 3rd, 2015, and I'm going to do a flea market finds series, this is actually an estate sale. I'm going to show you some stuff I picked up at an estate sale just a couple weeks ago actually. And I've gotten quite a bit of stuff lately, and I need to start putting some stuff away, and I haven't been doing that because I wanted to get this stuff videoed and talk about what I found. And so this was an estate sale right here in town, and this is kind of a unique situation because the company that was running the estate sale, typically they do their estate sales on site. In this particular situation, for whatever reason, the family didn't want the sale to happen at the actual house, and it wasn't all the contents of the house. I guess it was mainly like a workshop type situation. This guy was apparently a woodworker and a tool hoarder, big time tool hoarder. He had multiples of the same tool. Many of the items were brand new in the box. Great stuff. And so I ended up finding this listing online for the auction, and they had some photographs in there, and it was all woodworking stuff. And the thing was, in one of the photos, what caught my eye was actually these three large items in the back. And I said to myself, wow, I'd really like to get those. I wonder what those are going to go for. So I talked to somebody at the company that was running the sale, and they explained to me how the sale works. So basically it's a 9 a.m. start time, and this was a Friday, Saturday sale. I love Friday, Saturday sales because if it's a sale on a Friday, you don't get the regular crowd. The regular yard sale crowd pretty much is at work on Friday. And if you're lucky like me and you make your own hours and you can get the time off to sneak up and get there, sometimes you can get some real deals. And in this particular case, it certainly paid off, because the items I bought would have been gone immediately within the first probably 20 minutes of the sale. So what ended up happening was, they explained to me that it's a 9 a.m. start time. If you come earlier than 9 a.m., it's first come, first serve. They give out, from a deck of 52 playing cards, they give you a card with a number on it. And basically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what's nice about that is, in this particular case, I was able to get there really early, get my number, leave, drop the kids off where I needed to drop them off that day, and then get back there in time for the start time. So I wanted to make sure that I was number one. So I got there at 6:30 in the morning. There was no one there. And that might seem like kind of ridiculously early, but some of these sales, I've seen some of these companies, they've actually posted that they do not want anybody before midnight of the day of the sale. So in other words, kind of like the Black Friday sales that they have, where people actually start lining up at midnight or whatever to be the first ones in the door in the morning, that kind of thing. Well, apparently on some of these sales, apparently they have to worry about that. They also talk about, apparently this is something from the world of etiquette for estate sales. If you get there extra early and the people at the estate sale that are running it aren't giving out numbers yet, you can create a sign-in sheet if you're the first one there, and then basically everybody who comes after you is supposed to use your sign-in sheet, and you go right down the list. You're also going to make sure that if you're the one who is starting the sign-in sheet, that you stay with it, that kind of thing, because they warn you that, hey, somebody might come along, throw your sheet out, and just make their own sheet to make sure they're first in line, or unscrupulous activity and stuff like that. I get there 6:30 in the morning, had my coffee, just sat there, waited. At 7 o'clock, they were running this in a big 2-car garage. So at 7 o'clock, the garage door is open, and after a little small talk, I get my card, and I'm number one. So I come back later, and probably about 20 minutes to 9, I get there, and there's a small crowd there, but not a lot of people, just a small handful of people. So I walk up, and the general rule is you're not going to, most of these companies, they don't allow you to go into the sale area until the start time. Sometimes they'll have a rope up or something like that, and they'll tell you to, stay behind the rope. In this particular case, they were relying on, basically they had the garage doors and they had the garage doors open, but they were relying on people not going in there. And so I'm standing there at the open garage door waiting to go in, and there's a guy standing behind me, and we're both standing there, and he's thinking the same thing I am, which is probably wouldn't be kosher to just walk in there before the sale starts. Somebody's probably going to say something. Well, we're standing there waiting patiently, and we're standing on the side of the garage side where they had the little table set up where the cashier was going to be, and also they had bags there because they had a lot of items that were 2 for $1, you know, $1 a piece items, 4 for $1 even. And the idea was that they had bags, and they would mark a bag 4 for $1, 2 for $1, and you would take those 2 for $1 items. It's basically the honor system. If you were taking 4 for $1 items, they wanted you to put it in the 4 for $1 bag. They didn't want you taking 4 of the 2 for $1 items and throwing them in a 4 for $1 bag. Although I don't know how they would stop anybody from doing that. I didn't do it, but I kept thinking to myself, boy, it's almost impossible to track. So it's the honor system. It's got to have a little bit of integrity, right? So anyways, so I'm standing there on that side, and the way they had the layout, it was clear to me that it almost seemed like there was a kind of a flow, that if you walk through, you could kind of do like a horseshoe and go around all of the equipment and the tables of stuff they had set up and go out the other way. Well, this guy comes with his wife. Clearly they were pickers, and they come up and they walk over to the other door, and they stroll right on into the garage and start looking around. Not only do they start looking around, they actually start picking stuff up. They even started opening boxes and looking at stuff. And I'm like, thinking to myself, well, how's this going to work? 9 a.m. is about to start. It's about to start, about to hit 9 a.m. He's going to, they're going to give the green light that the sale's on, and these people are going to be the first in there? I don't think so. So, at one point, I kind of, the guy who owns the company, his wife was standing right next to me, and I kind of, looked at her and looked at the people and looked back at her, and she kind of gave me a look like, yeah, really, I mean, it was clear from the body language and everything she thought that was kind of rude and then presumptuous of them to think they're just going to go in there. It was so obvious we were standing in line and they were just going to waltz right in like we weren't there. That's all right though, because I still had the card in my pocket with the number 1 on it. I also had already had a little talk with her. She had already gotten sold stickers ready for me, and the understanding was they had everything pretty much well priced, clearly priced. So if you were willing to pay the full asking price, then it was pretty much first come first serve and you were in there. If you're going to haggle, then they could easily just say, well, we're going to wait, and then the guy behind you could scoop it if he wanted to pay the full price. That's how it works. In this particular case here, these items, I wanted them at the price they were asking. Had no problem paying for them, paying that price for them. So I said, I'm going to take those 3 items right off the bat. And then there was another item and another item, and I said, those are the ones that I really want, so we'll mark them. So after watching this guy and his wife walk around in there for several minutes, finally I turned to the guy behind me. I said, I don't know about you, but I said, if they're just going to walk around in there, I'm going in. So I walked in, and the guy actually said, yeah, I agree. So the guy behind me was glad, because now he's walking in there and getting ready to look around. So we're looking around, poking around, and I noticed the guy's loitering around the table where one of the items I wanted was. This is, Mr. Picker and his wife. He's standing there. He's clearly looking at the item that I wanted. So, as luck would have it, what ended up happening was the 3 big items in the back, before the sale started, she went over and actually pre-put sold stickers on them. And then when the sale started, the guy was standing right next to the table. I was now standing next to the item. He turned for a moment to get one of the other runners' attention, because he wanted to tell him that he wanted to buy that. When he turned to do that, she came back over and she handed me a sold sticker across the table, because she was on the other side, and I stuck it right on the thing. He literally turns back around thinking he's about to tell this guy, and he's like, oh, that's sold? I said, yeah, I just bought that. And then later on, his wife was talking to the guy who runs the thing about the other items, the other big 3 items I bought, and she was saying how much, wow, that was a really good buy. And he says to her, he says, well, I don't know. He says, that guy right there bought him. You can talk to him if you want. And she looked at me, and she gave me the old stink eye. She actually kind of half joking said, "Oh, I hate you now," or something like that. But so anyway, so what I'm gonna do is the big items are sitting over there. I'm gonna go through some of the smaller stuff first, and because I ended up buying a bunch of other stuff there too. I didn't end up spending that much money that day, but I ended up getting quite a few good deals. So let me reposition the camera angle and show you what I got. So this is the item that was on one of the tables that Mr. Picker was eyeballing big time, and I had already set my sights on. And this is the thing that she literally handed me the sticker, and when he turned around for a second, we slapped the sold sticker on it. This was marked for 18 or 20 bucks. It was funny, I think this was marked for 20 bucks, and I think they actually inadvertently put 18 on the sticker or something. But what this is this is a nice little storage unit, and what it's got is all these little compartments for hardware. There were several items that were in this guy's workshop that indicated to me that he either had a connection with an auto parts store or something like that, and that when they would get rid of something like this, that he was able to snag it maybe, because there was some stuff that actually had like Napa on it and that. But this is actually full of hardware. Unfortunately, it's not really the kind of stuff that I have much use for. It's mostly the kind of hardware that you would find in a woodworking shop. There's a lot of wood screws, small ones, various screws. Here's a couple of weird little, I don't know what these little mesh baskets are for. This is a whole, it's about 6, 8, maybe 10. These are obviously some kind of a switch, a contact switch, by the looks of it. I'm not familiar with this style, but there's the connectors right there. Excuse me. There's the connectors right there for the wires to go on, and this threads down into something, and then there's this pin that I'm not quite sure what the deal is with this thing. This is some kind of weird little switch thing. I didn't even care. If this was empty, I would have been pleased. I already looked through it. I didn't see a lot. These are for the bottom of a patio door. A couple of those in there. Here's some big crimp connectors for large diameter wire. Here's a bunch of these little rivets. These are good for holding on little data plates on old machinery. I think I can probably use a couple of these when I go to put the plaque back on the SIP drill press. Actually, I think I already put the plaque back on, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, that's what those are kind of like for. There's a knurled. Nice little knurled knob or something. Just more screws. There's some good bolts. So this is just basically loaded with nuts and bolts for the most part. And there's 2 miscellaneous chuck keys. I'm just going to take those out and put them with my other miscellaneous chuck keys right off the bat. Crimp connectors, electrical connectors, brass screws. Alright, brass machine screws. So anyways, this has got some paint rubbed off here by the looks of it, but this is overall, it's in excellent condition. There's a place right here to put little cards in, so if you want to label the drawers. And this is by Bowman, B-O-W-M-A-N, and it's actually got like a little silhouette of a guy drawing a bow. So I have no idea what the value or something like this is. Bowman Products up here, it says registration number, blah blah blah. This equipment is supplied, serviced, and registered by Bowman Products. So I think this is like kind of almost like when you go in and you see like O-ring assortments or MSC's fastener assortments in hardware stores. I think that's where you might find something like this, or in this particular case, because some of the other stuff looked like it came out of an auto parts store, that kind of thing. But he repurposed it obviously for his hardware. I think that's going to be a great little addition. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to keep in there, but probably, you know, smaller screws and hardware. So their pricing strategy and the way they had things laid out was kind of interesting. There were items there that were priced very reasonably, downright steals. There were items there that were priced fairly, you know, moderately. If you needed that particular tool, it was a good buy, and maybe not so low that you could turn around and immediately resell it. So it wasn't exactly a flea marketer or picker's haven where, you know, you wanted to turn around, buy it dirt cheap so you could turn around and sell it at your flea market table or something like that. There was some of that, but and then there was some stuff that was just, it was priced just completely out of whack. And so I ended up staying there for like 3.5 hours total that day, because after I made my initial buys, I kept going through and picking a little more and seeing what else I would find. And then as the day wore on, I got into the more of the wheel and deal type mode to see what kind of deal I could get on things. Some of the stuff I grabbed right away and just paid their asking price. I went like this bag here. I actually had 2 bags. So I had a 2 for $1 bag type deal, and then I had a something else, 4 for $1 bag or something like that. And what ended up happening, I must have that other bag around here because I'm missing a few items. Let me grab that. Alright, I'm going to start with the really cheap stuff. There were a couple items here that the only reason I took them was because I needed to make, you know, a 2 for $1 type deal. So like I found these Porter cable blades packs. These are bimetal 24 TPI medium gauge metal cutting blades. You can see that wherever he bought these, they were already on sale for $3 a pack. Either that or they've been around for a while, because that's actually pretty cheap for these. I think there's, looks like there's 6 in a pack, and they're both unopened. So I got 2 packs for $1. And then I also don't remember how this ended up working out, but when I needed to round out something 2 for $1, I grabbed this. This is a Husky brand, which is, I think this is Home Depot tool brand, whatever, little drill driver. Quick release, ratcheting, changes direction, and then the middle is locked. So that's a nice little driver, and then you're supposed to have the extra bits going here. Oh, they are in there. I didn't hear them rattling around, but this is kind of a neat little thing here. So there's one opening right there, which is probably for the bit that is on there. So it's actually a complete set. It's actually a little handy little thing to have. So get that for 50 cents. And then I got another one of these. For those of you who haven't seen this, this is from Creative Tools Incorporated in Bennington, Vermont. This is I've got a couple of these now, and I really like them. They're ratcheting drivers, but they get this nice big ball to grab onto, so you can really get some purchase on that thing. And then the way this works is that's one direction, and then you just pop this off and flip it over to reverse direction. Why isn't that going in? There we go. So I got another one of those. 50 cents for that. I don't normally buy wood tools, but I thought this was so cool that I just had to have it. And I got this for, I think, $1. And what this is this is a little plane, okay, for wood. But at first glance, I thought it was a little wooden one, an old one. And then when I looked at it more clearly, I could see that this part right here is wood. Okay, this is solid brass. And I don't know if this is a shop-made thing. If it's a shop-made thing, it was really well executed. But it's interesting because there's something going on top here. I'm not quite sure what the purpose of these two areas right on top here that are discolored in a different way. But it's marked,
but it's only marked with initials. So initially I thought, well, the maker just put his initials on it. But then I noticed that the initials are on here, they're on here, they're on the separate components, they're on the side. So I'm beginning to think maybe this might be initials for an actual manufacturer. So if anybody knows woodworking tools, maybe they can tell me whether or not JBD means anything. See, I couldn't really look at this good there because I didn't have a magnifier with me. But it's marked JBD on the side. It's marked JBD on the top there. And then it's marked JBD and what looks almost like a wood insert right here. And it's marked, I can just make out the D, it's marked there. So it's stamped all over with JBD. So either that's the guy's initials and he was really into marking his tools that he made, or that's a manufacturer. But I have never seen one made out, I've seen small little planes like this, I've never seen one made out of solid brass. So maybe it's just me, but I thought that was pretty cool, and I just felt like I had to have it. And then it was funny, I couldn't believe I missed this the first several times. There were a lot of boxes and bins that had stuff piled in them and you had to dig down deep. And this thing was kicking around and it was getting ignored and ignored and ignored. And then I didn't even really look at it that closely. And then I finally went, I picked it up and I looked at it and I went, that says snap-on. And I was like, that is a funky torque wrench that I've never seen before, this style. Well, lo and behold, I asked the guy, what are you going to get for it? And he said, I don't know, a couple bucks. I said, sold. I bought this for $2. I don't know for sure, but I think it does work because when I twist this a little bit, the needle moves. And this outer dial, you can actually, you can set like a limit, I guess, or something. Not sure exactly how this works. But I also thought, well, I thought something was missing here, but apparently, because I see these on eBay, they're just like this. Apparently you're supposed to put an extension or something in there to actually use this. So this says effective length 8 inches, 203 millimeters. So I think you're supposed to put in an 8-inch extension maybe in there. But these trade on eBay all the time. I forgot what it says right on the side here. It says torque-o-meter, T-O-R-Q-O-M-E-E-T-E-R. And this is a model TE12-FUA. And so that's a sleeper at $2. But that's some kind of old snap-on there. And then these weren't all together with the elastic band. I actually dug through one of the 4 for $1 trays because I saw punches in there and I said, ah, punches. It's like I'm lousy with punches. And then I went back and I looked at them more clearly and I realized that some of these are sterrets. Some of the ones with some of them. So I picked every one out that was a sterret, and these are actually in pretty good shape. And I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this little itty bitty one, even this one's a sterret. I got these 6 punches, and then I needed to, because it was 4 for $1, I needed 2 more items, and I just said to the guy, I said, hey, how about all these little tiny files? This is a bunch of pattern files that were in there. Swiss pattern files. The box was actually in there, but it had gotten crushed. I don't think it had gotten wet because these aren't all rusty. But anyways, so I got, basically for $2, I got all of these sterret punches and these files. So that was a good deal. You know, lots of times these companies that do these estate sales and that, when they clean out the garage or the basement or whatever, they end up finding a lot of chemicals and things. And lots of times, you know, if it isn't motor oil, unopened motor oil, then they pretty much for the most part, they really don't even want to have anything to do with it, and they just kind of hope that they're going to get rid of the stuff before the day's over. So they had a whole table of chemicals there. There was a lot of paint. Some guys were buying the paint, you know. Paint, when you don't know how old it is, you don't know if you're going to open up the can, and it was find it, you know, completely junked. But I went over to the table there and was making an offer, so I was like, well, you know, what the heck. So I went, how about 2 for $1? And I think the first thing I ended up buying was, look at this brand new unopened Zepp orange heavy duty hand cleaner. So I got that for 50 cents. And then, because it was a 2 for $1 deal, I spotted this can of acetone. This is from Napa. No, this is from C-A-P Auto. $3.99 originally. But acetone's nice for wiping down metal before you know, cleaning metal before you weld. This particular one, they're calling it fiberglass resin thinner, but it's just acetone. I checked the ingredients. This feels pretty full. I don't know if it's ever been opened. Then I went back and I found another can of acetone. Okay, this is brand new and unopened. I think this feels really full. And I needed something to round it out, so the only thing I really spotted at first was this Wesley's, I never know how to say this, black white? I don't know. This is tire cleaner. This is actually pretty good stuff, so I'll use it eventually. And then near the end of the day, I went back over and I was like, I don't know why I missed this the first time, but I was like, you know what, I'd give $1 for this. This is unopened, brand new antifreeze. This is the pre-mixed. They call it 50-50, so you don't have to add water, which is kind of a you know, kind of a little bit of a trade secret, I guess, or whatever. That this stuff's kind of a rip-off for convenience. This is for when you absolutely do not want to do any work whatsoever other than open the cap and pour it into your radiator. I guess also maybe if you had this with you and you didn't have water at your disposal and you needed to add some, it might be good. But ideally what you want to do is you want to buy regular antifreeze, bring it home, and mix it up in a 50-50 ratio with water. So this stuff I would never buy in the store. Antifreeze has gotten really expensive. I found that out when I was buying some antifreeze for one of the trucks or something, and I was like, boy, I was surprised how expensive this stuff had gotten. So I thought this was a deal at $1.